So as we all know, the USS Independence is an incredibly powerful vehicle. However, will we say that it goes as far as being better than the ZUMWALT? Well, in this video, guys, I will be comparing both of these vehicles on how powerful they are. I'll be covering their strengths and weaknesses, and at the end, I will be making a final verdict on which one is actually better than the other. And this video has to be one of the longest damage tests I've done for a very long time, so I would have appreciated it if you guys do subscribe. Anyway, let's just jump right into it. So the first things which I'm going to be covering is the difference in terms of their speed. So in terms of base speed, the Independence will go up to 40 miles per hour and the ZUMWALT will do exactly the same. Currently I have it maxed, and if you guys do 52 minus 12, it's going to be equaling to 40. Anyway, in terms of the health, the ZUMWALT's base health is currently standing at 5,200, just a small note over here, and then the Independence's base health is also standing at 4,200. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into a damage test. First of all, I will be testing the USS Independence, and then after that I will be comparing it to the ZUMWALT. So anyway, let's just jump in. So first of all, we're going to be seeing how powerful the anti-air missiles are against the maxed out F35, and here we have it. It's going to be taking exactly 3 shots to go ahead and kill it. By the way, I would like to also give a very clear note, but the ZUMWALT's firepower will be maxed for this video, and same with the USS Independences. This is something that the community has been asking me to do, so here you have it. Anyway, now moving into the main cannon, which is the 55mm cannon, and it's going to be taking exactly 3 shots to kill the F35 with it, which is actually really good considering the huge fire rate. Now, the next thing which we're testing over here is the lock-on range of the serum, which is something that most of the time I did not go ahead and test, but as you guys can see it, the serum will lock onto the enemy at around 1000 stats, so that is actually a pretty decent amount, and it's a little less than the ZUMWALT, but it's still really good. Now, moving into the damage of the serum, and this thing is an absolute joke of a powerhouse, because if you get anywhere near it, as you guys can see, the DPS of it is absolutely insane, and it can also go through floors. Each shot is going to be doing exactly 26 damage, and on average 1 burst will easily be able to kill the vehicle, but on this case it has to be 2. Now moving on to the MI28, and the main cannon will actually be able to 2-shot it, and considering the fire rate that this main cannon actually has, that is absolutely huge damage. Now the missile damage against the MI28 Havoc, it's going to be taking exactly 3 shots to go ahead and kill it. However, after 2 shots it was actually left at 1%. Now moving into the serum damage against the MI28, which is the last thing right here. So the serum is actually a lot more powerful against helicopters, because as you guys can see, it will be taking more damage per bullet, as you can clearly see in this clip, and the DPS here is just on another level. Now moving on to the main cannon against the Abrams X, which is something very interesting. So here we have it. As you guys can see, the DPS overall is incredibly high, and the vehicle is easily able to get destroyed after a plenty of shots. Now taking a look at its missiles, and the missiles are actually pretty good. However, they ain't very special compared to any other vehicle which is good for anti-ground. As you guys can see, 8 of its missiles will not be able to kill an Abrams X. However, due to this vehicle's height, it will be able to engage with targets which are actually hiding behind terrain. Now fully moving into the drone, and this piece of trash, it is just unable to pretty much do anything. It will actually miss a lot of the time as well. I don't know how that's possible, but the damage on it is also not great either, and this is pretty much the same situation for the ZUMWALT right here. Now let's go ahead and test the missiles against ships, and here I'm going to be using the PGO-2 because it's pretty much the 3rd best ship in the game, and as you guys can see, these missiles are not incredibly strong. However, they do pack quite a punch considering the fact you can fire them rapidly. Now, lastly, moving into the main cannon damage, so let's go ahead and see how fast I can kill the PGO-2, and from what you guys can see, the DPS on it is absolutely insane, and it's able to shred it in pretty much half of the capacity that I can fire. Now, fully moving into the ZUMWALT against the F35, so let's go ahead and see on how many missiles it's gonna take to kill it. So this is not missile number 1, missile number 2, missile number 3, missile number 4, and missile number 5. And as you guys can clearly see, it is also unable to fire rapidly compared to USS Independence. Now moving on to the main cannon, it will be able to actually 2-shot the F35. However, the problem with it is it's just so hard to actually aim with these cannons because they're a lot slower and less accurate. Now moving on to the lock-on range of the AI turrets. After that, we will also be testing their damage. However, the lock-on range of them is going to be around 1300 stats, so it's around 300 higher than what it is for the Independence. However, the difference between damage is actually huge, and you're really not gonna like this. Now let's go ahead and see on how good the damage of these AI turrets actually is, and let's actually be honest, 9 damage each against a plane is an absolute joke, and as you guys can clearly see, it is not really doing the best damage. It's taking like ages to go ahead and kill this F35, like the serum would not be cutting this vehicle as much slack as what these AI turrets actually are. And by the way, I would love to give a huge shout out to Nameless for actually helping me out in this video. This video took a very long time to record, so go ahead and subscribe to him. I'll leave a link to him in the description. Now the MI28 is actually able to survive 2 of the shells from the cannon, which is actually pretty insane considering how slow they shoot as well. Now let's go ahead and take a look how many missiles it's actually gonna take to kill the MI28 Havoc. So this is missile number 1, missile number 2, and missile number 3. So it's gonna take 3 to kill the MI28, which is a lot better than what it was against the F35. Now moving on to the AI turrets, and they are an absolute trash against the MI28, just like they were against the F35. This is pretty clear, but they are not gonna be doing a great job against their enemies. So there's definitely a point for the USS Independence in terms of this category. Now moving on to the main cannon against the Abrams X. So this is actually a pretty interesting one, but it will be able to actually free-shot it, which is going to be an equal of 6 shells. So let me go ahead and show you guys. This is shot number 1, number 2, and number 3, and this is one of the things that the ZUMWALT is actually pretty good at. Now moving on to the missiles, and the missiles are not really any better in any way, shape, or form against the Abrams X, because as you guys can see, 10 of these missiles, which by the way, this is a fully maxed out ZUMWALT, they are struggling to kill an Abrams X, and considering Abrams X also has APS, oh man, this thing is not gonna be good against ground vehicles in any way. Now let's go ahead and actually take a look on how good the main cannon actually is against ships, and this is one of the things that the ZUMWALT is really good at, because it will actually be able to 4-shot it, which is actually incredibly good. Now let's go ahead and also take a look at the PGO2, how good it is against 10 missiles, and 10 of these missiles will actually not be able to kill the PGO2, however it will give it a substantial amount of bonus damage, but it's nothing compared to the DPS of the USS Independence. Now moving on to the final test and the most important part, how will these actually square up in a 1v1? As you guys can see, the USS Independence does have better missile DPS, however the ZUMWALT is only going to be winning this fight due to it having more health, but a stronger cannon. But again, this is not versatility, the ZUMWALT is just better in terms of boat combat. Now let's go ahead and make a final verdict for today's video. In terms of air combat, the USS Independence is going to be taking the point. It simply has a much more powerful serum, and the AI turrets are an absolute joke in terms of the ZUMWALT, and the missiles are also much stronger in terms of air-to-air. Another thing is that they can be unloaded much faster too. Now, the next thing is the ground combat. In terms of the ground combat, I'd say that both of these vehicles are actually quite equal, so I'll actually be giving it a point to both. However, I do actually see the USS Independence also taking this point due to the reason that this vehicle is taller, meaning that it's able to actually engage with targets which are also hiding behind terrain. Anyway, now moving on to the boat combat, the ZUMWALT is going to be a winner, and it would take at least 2 US Independences to go ahead and kill it, but at the end of the day, both of these vehicles are actually incredibly equal. However, if we're talking about the usability of both of their weaponries, I will actually be giving the point to the USS Independence, and I will be declaring it as the winner of today's video, because pretty much it's just a much better all-rounded vehicles, and the ZUMWALT actually does have a lot of useless parts. And by the way, this is actually a pretty huge problem considering the ZUMWALT does cost exactly $30, so I do feel bad for anyone that actually spend their money on it. Anyway, for the time being, I'll see you guys next video. Have a greatest day, and thanks so much to my channel members.